This is 90.3 KEDM Monroe. Good evening, I'm Cory, Crowe, News and Public Affairs Director for KEDM Public Radio, and tonight we're at the University of Louisiana Monroe for our Meet the Candidates Forum. Tonight we're sitting down with the folks who are running in the Senate and in the House with districts that have part of Ouachita Parish or within Ouachita Parish. Before we begin tonight, I want to thank our sponsor, Homeland Bank, and I also want to bring up from the Monroe Chamber, Roy Heatherly, who's with us this evening. Roy?
Thank you, Cory. On behalf of the Monroe Chamber and Chris Kelly and the West Monroe, West Ouachita Chamber, on behalf of KEDM, Cory Crowe, Jay Curtis, Jenny Pankey, and David Hernandez with ULM's SGA, it's my honor to welcome everybody here as well. I'd also like to thank Homeland Bank, and I also want to thank the political candidates because you guys, Teddy Roosevelt has a great quote about stepping into the arena. So your families, you've made the decision to run, and you stepped out there for all of us, and we really appreciate it. And before we get started, I want to remind everybody of early voting, September 30th through October 7th, excluding Sunday, October 1st, 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Register of Voters office. And now I want to turn it back over to Cory, and let's get the show going.
Thank you, Roy, and we appreciate the help of the Monroe Chamber. Also, we're going to meet the folks from the West Ouachita Chamber in just a bit. Before we begin, this event not possible without our friends at ULM. David Hernandez is with us. He's the president of the University of Louisiana Monroe Student Government Association. David, come on up and welcome folks.
All right, I'd like to thank you all for coming out today. The ULM Student Government Association is very honored to have your presence here tonight. I'm here to announce that the polls open on October 14th on Election Day from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. This is a really good way for anyone that decides that they want change or any type of things that are going on to go and vote and have your voice heard. So that's going to be October 14th on Election Day, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. For more ballot information, please visit Go Vote or on the Go Vote app or on their website online. Again, we thank you all for coming out, and for our viewers, we hope you enjoyed tonight.
Thank you, David. For our radio audience who's with us tonight, we're at the University of Louisiana Monroe. We're on the 7th floor tonight in the terrace, and we're talking to our candidates. And we'll begin tonight with Senate District 33. In Senate District 33, Stuart Cathy Jr. is running against Harvey Ned White. And today we have both candidates with us. For a radio audience, so you know, we just drew straws to figure out who would get the opening statement. And we'll begin tonight with a 2-minute opening statement. And we'll turn it over for 2 minutes to Mr. Ned White. Mr. White.
Thank you. Well, good evening. First, I want to thank my wife, Ashley, and my entire family for supporting me in this journey. For those of you here tonight that know me, know I'm not a politician. I've never run for office, and it hadn't been my lifelong dream to do so. What I am is a businessman. I've been a businessman for over 30 years and being a job creator. I know I got working experience and knowledge of what this district consists of, and I've spoken to hundreds of people throughout the district, and quite frankly, they're stretched and stressed out, and they want to see change in North Louisiana. This is why we need more business owners and leaders to step up in this position that knows what it takes to run a business and make a payroll, because that's the way that the state needs to be operated. Our people must be rewarded with lower taxes. We need to eliminate the income tax. We need to reduce our sales taxes in order to drive new industry here and keep the businesses that we have now. The infrastructure is also a major deal that we need to overhauling. We shouldn't have to wait years and decades more for something that should have already been fixed in order to attract new industry to come to our state. We must stop relying on government handouts. We all know they're temporary and they're not sustainable. So we need to have jobs. In our education system, we need more parental control, not political control in our schools. And we need more trade school classes to be reintegrated so our children can get a job when they get out of high school. On crime, we need major attention in dealing with our juveniles. I've spoken to every sheriff and every district attorney throughout the district, and quite frankly, there's no place to house these individuals. I'd like to see detention centers built throughout the district. we need, all right, thank you.
Thank you. That is Mr. Ned White, who's with us this evening. And next for our opening statement, we'll go to Stuart Cathy Jr. Sir, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Cory. And again, I want to thank ULM, the chambers, and everybody here for attending this and engaging in the political process. I am the current senator for Senate District 33. Along with representing you in the Senate, I also own a small business, as well as for the past 20 years, I've served proudly in the U.S. Army with 2 combat tours overseas in Afghanistan. Within the legislature, I'm proud to say that I am the chairman of the Senate Ag Committee. So as we look at issues that face this district, which are largely agricultural related, I'm proud to say that we have done a lot to protect our farmers and our loggers. Along with that, I also chair the North Louisiana delegation, or co-chair the North Louisiana delegation, along with my colleague from Shreveport, Representative Thomas Presley. Together, we fight to make sure that we're bringing dollars and resources back here to North Louisiana, specifically Northeast Louisiana for me. And because of that, we've seen a record investment in Northeast Louisiana over the last 4 years. We've seen almost $900 million in new projects, whether it's addressing rural broadband, whether it's roads, whether it's rural water. Those are things, real projects that we've brought back to Northeast Louisiana. Along with that, we've also lowered your personal income taxes by 1/3. We've also worked to eliminate the franchise tax to make businesses thrive, make it easier for them. We've protected our children. I'm proud to say that I am the senator that revived that bill when it was killed in the Senate to make sure that your children are protected. We've put money back into schools. We've strengthened law enforcement by guaranteeing that our police and fire are going to get the supplemental pay that they've so long had to fight for down in Baton Rouge. Along with ensuring that our teachers are paid what they're worth. So again, with that, it's been an honor to represent you, and I look forward to continuing to represent you here in Louisiana Senate.
Thank you. That is Stuart Cathy Jr. We also drew for who got the first question tonight. Guys, we're going to do 1-minute answers. And again, we've got our timers there, so watch those folks. And if you can run long, you'll hear the bell. Begin with Mr. Ned White. Sir, what in your education or your work experience or your life experiences makes you a good candidate?
Well, I went to work at an early age. I started my first business at age 21. I took a chance, went and borrowed $10,000 at Hibernia Bank. And from that, that business has grown multiple other businesses deeply rooted in North Louisiana. I'm involved in the gaming industry. I'm a farmer. I'm a logger. I cut timber, timber management, farmland management. My latest venture has been a sand and gravel operation that I opened in West Monroe that we supply all aggregate to the ready-mix companies, commercial real estate, and livestock, just to name a few. So I know what the district consists of, and I have working knowledge in those areas.
Thank you. That is Ned White. Stuart Cathy Jr., the question goes to you. What in your education or your work experience or life experiences makes you the best candidate?
Well, one, I'm going to say that the fact that I am the sitting senator gives me a bit of experience in the role, number one. Two, the 20 years that I've spent in the Army, 2 combat tours in Afghanistan. Look, I have never deployed with a unit. I've always been one guy, and I had to show up and figure out how to integrate with people, work with people from all different backgrounds, nationalities in order to get a job done, and I'm proud to say that I've been able to do that. Educationally, I think that the fact that I'm a proud graduate of this institution. I understand the value and importance that this is as we're going to work to strengthen our economy and create jobs. So, I mean, I think it's really clear and simple that I have the background and the experience necessary to continue to move this district in the right way forward.
Thank you. That is Stuart Cathy. Next question will come to you first, Mr. Cathy. How would you work to attract businesses to North Louisiana? And what are our strengths that you see here?
I think that we've done a lot of stuff so far to get the ball moving in the right direction. We have worked to create a a better business environment through the streamlining of our franchise taxes. We've worked to eliminate those. Unfortunately, the governor vetoed that legislation, so hopefully next term with a Republican governor we'll be able to pass that. I think that the education piece, as we've seen, record investment in the community and technical college system, which will show that we're able to address the needs that we have. As far as what do we have here to sell, I think our people. I mean, we've got great people here, people that are hardworking. As I've met them across the district over the last 4 years, we've got a lot to sell and a lot to be proud of.
Mr. White, a question will come to you. What are our strengths? How would you attract businesses to North Louisiana?
Well, I'll go back to what I said earlier. I think we need to eliminate the state income tax, lower our sales taxes to attract new business here. We need to start using our natural resources like our rivers more often and get some more barging traffic up here to improve the economy and jobs. I would like to see a timber mill come to the district. I'm in the timberland business. We have plenty of inventory out there. We just need another mill to come to this area so the prices can come up so we can get a little competition with other mills that are in the area.
Thank you, Mr. White. Mr. White, this one goes to you. The governor has been asked by, I think it was 51 inmates for clemency for folks that are on death row right now. Should Louisiana have a death penalty? And if you're in favor of that, what should you get the death penalty for?
I am in favor of that. It just depends. I'm not sure what, I mean, I don't want to start judging people as far as what they need to be put to death about. But I'm not, I will say this, I'm not for convicted felons being allowed to serve on jury trials, which is what we have now. It's been passed in the legislature. You know, if somebody has some, you know, heinous murders that happen, something like that, and especially against children, they need to be held accountable for it.
Thank you. That's Ned White. Stuart Cathy Jr., question goes to you. The governor's been asked by inmates on death row for clemency. Should Louisiana have a death penalty, and what should it be for?
Absolutely. I think my record of being strong on crime shows that I am serious when it comes to addressing those issues. As far as what should it be for, I mean, we've got a lot of things on the books right now dealing with murder and things like that. I will tell you in a piece of legislation that I will be authoring in the spring of next year that I will make eligible for the death penalty is the sex trafficking of children. I saw The Sound of Freedom and it absolutely broke my heart. And I swear, if somebody ever did that to anybody I know, they deserve to die. And so I will be bringing that bill in the spring.
Thank you. Question next comes to you, Mr. Cathy. We talk about government growing, but I want to ask, is there something you would cut from Louisiana government or Louisiana government funding?
I think the best thing we can do for that it would be to reduce the roles of Medicaid. And what I mean by that is I'm not saying kick people off of Medicaid, but I'm saying to create a prosperous environment in this state where people make too much money to qualify for Medicaid. That right there would take people off the rolls of Medicaid. It would reduce government spending while also creating a more prosperous Louisiana.
Thank you. And the question goes to you, Mr. White. Is there something you would cut from Louisiana government or from Louisiana government funding?
I think we need to work on consolidating numerous departments. We've got too much overhead in this state and too much wasteful spending. One thing that needs to be done is the way that we're regulated, permitted, and licensed. Business owners shouldn't have to wait years or months to be able to go into business.
Question to you, Mr. White. Are teachers being paid enough? Do they deserve raises?
I do believe they deserve raises.
Mr. Cathy, teachers, raises?
I voted for a teacher pay raise every time it's been before us in the legislature, and even if you can go back and look at the debate on the Senate side that I said I would not vote to move a budget across the floor unless it had a teacher pay raise in it. So absolutely, I support teacher pay raises.
Mr. Cathy, question, how would you reach across the aisle to work with the other side to get things done in Baton Rouge?
Well, the first thing I'm not going to do to work with the other side is to compromise my principles and my values. And that's one thing that I have a record of doing in Baton Rouge. I will tell you this, I passed crime legislation this year that, again, unfortunately, the governor vetoed, that had multiple Democrats voting for and supporting the legislation. And so I think that I've proven that when the time is right and the opportunity is there, that I am willing to work with other people. I'm just not willing to sacrifice my morals and my principles to do it.
Mr. White, question goes to you. How would you reach across the aisle if elected to work with the other side?
Well, you know, I've been able to reach across the aisle all my life in being in the business world. Quite frankly, you don't remain 30 years in business without being able to work with people. I've said from day one, it doesn't matter to me what your party is, whether you're male or female, or what your race is. I'm here to serve everybody in this district. And I think everybody deserves equal respect in the legislature, and not only in the legislature, but the constituents around the state in this district.
I think we come to you next, Mr. White. Who was the greatest political leader? Do you have an idol that you look up to, and then why would that be?
Well, right now I would have to say Donald Trump, because he's a businessman, and I can relate to what all he's done as far as taking the nation by a stronghold and trying to run it like a business to turn it around while he was there.
Mr. Cathy, who was the greatest political leader that you look up to, and why?
I would say Congressman Alexander, as he's sitting in the audience, but I think Ronald Reagan did a lot of great stuff as we look at what the country did, where it was when he took over, and how it prospered in under his leadership for those 8 years. I think there's a lot to know, and it goes back to the question where you asked about reaching across the aisle and working with other people. I think that looking at the relationship between he and Tip O'Neill, two people that were from different parties with different philosophies, but they were able to try to put that aside to accomplish the common good.
This is 90.3 KEDM. We're at ULM tonight. It's the Meet the Candidates Forum, and we're here. District 33 candidates Stuart Cathy Jr. and Harvey Ned White are with us. Mr. Cathy, Lumen recently gifted the University of Louisiana Monroe their campus on 165. Just was curious, what kind of ideas, dreams would you have for that facility, and how can lawmakers help?
Well, the first thing we can do is to continue to make Louisiana inviting for business to come, which is, again, what we have done through investing in our education systems, making our tax policy more business friendly. Those are things that we can do from a legislative policy standpoint. Some of the things that I'd like to see there that have had some conversations with the university about is working on bringing some of the security employees that work in D.C. Here to Louisiana. The facility there has one of the most secure, most connected, when we're talking about fiber and things, in the country. And so when we look at the cost to do business in Washington, D.C. versus here, it really is a no-brainer to try to move those jobs here.
Thank you, Mr. Cathy. Mr. White, Lumen recently gifted ULM that beautiful campus on 165 North. What types of ideas or dreams would you have for that facility, and how could lawmakers help out?
A friend of mine used to do a bunch of work out there, and kind of to echo what Stuart said, I think it would be a great place for Intel to come in with the federal government and what's already out there and what's been done. We can use it for more community colleges, trade schools, and whatnot. It was a great thing that Lumen gifted it to the university, but quite frankly, the taxpayers have paid for that building multiple times, and I'm not sure if the overhead and whatever else is going to be feasible, but I'm for whatever we can put in there to bring some more jobs.
Thank you. That's Ned White. Again, we're out at ULM tonight, and we're out of question time, so we're going to get to our final statements. And gentlemen, again, thank you for being with us tonight. We know you've got another event to head off to this evening. So we'll have our closing statements tonight, and our first closing statement goes to you, Mr. White. I'll give you 2 minutes for a close. Ask folks for their vote.
Well, thank you. First thing I want to say is I will make myself as accessible and available to everyone. This race is not about me, it's about you. I will call you back. I will text you back. You are very important to me. I'm a conservative here at home, and as your next state senator, I will vote conservative in Baton Rouge. This is why I'm asking you to join me, because together we can make North Louisiana grow again, and I would appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. That is Ned White and Mr. Stuart Cathy Jr. Final closing statement. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Look, I think that the choice is clear, and I think that when you look at the various entities that are have endorsed my campaign, when we look at the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, the largest pro-business group in the state, the National Federation of Independent Business that represents small businesses all over this state, the Louisiana Association of Manufacturers, the Louisiana Loggers Association representing one of the largest industries in my district, the Home Builders Association, which represents thousands of small businesses across this state, the Oil and Gas Association, both with LOGA and LaMoga, which were the two major associations within this state, the Trucking Association. The fact that all those small business entities have said that my campaign and the job that I've done for them is the best opportunity we have to continue to see this state grow, I think is hands down. On top of that, the NRA has come out and said that I am the candidate best to protect the Second Amendment values that the people of this district hold so dear with their endorsement. I've also got a 100% pro-life rating. I'm a family advocate for the Family Forum, along with the endorsement of Congressman Mike Johnson, which is a congressman that represents half of my district. And I think that all those people see the potential that we have in this district, and that's why they've said Stuart Cathy is the right guy to continue to move this district and this state in the right way forward. And so with that, it has been an honor to represent you, and I look forward to 4 more years representing you in Baton Rouge. And so with that, all those endorsements are great, but they don't mean anything without the most important endorsement, and that's yours. That's your vote on October 14th. And so with that, I'd be honored to have it. Thank you.
Thank you. That is Stuart Cathy Jr. Again, gentlemen, thank you. Mr. Ned White, Stuart Cathy Jr., good luck on your campaigns. And we'll take a quick break right here. When we come back, we'll sit down with the District 20 folks. You're listening to 90.3 KEDM Monroe. It's the Meet the Candidates Forum live at ULM.
Five, four, three, two, one.
This is 90.3 KEDM. We're live tonight at the University of Louisiana Monroe for our Meet the Candidates Forum. And last Tuesday night, we sat down with the candidates for governor. Tonight, we're sitting down with the candidates who are running for state representative and for the Senate races that are in Ouachita Parish. Tonight's event's made possible by KEDM Public Radio, the West Monroe West Ouachita Chamber of Commerce, the Monroe Chamber of Commerce, the ULM SGA, and we can't do this without our friends at Homeland Bank. So we want to welcome everybody on radio tonight and on the internet who are joining us. Next up, we're talking about State Senate District 20. 2 candidates running in District 20, Kevin Bates, who's not with us this evening, and Neil Reiser, who is with us this evening. So we'll ask Mr. Reiser a lot of questions tonight. But before we do, sir, I want to give you 2 minutes to make an opening statement.
Okay, thank you very much. I also would like to thank the ULM and the West Monroe Chamber for sponsoring this. And the question I get most often when is, why did I ever run for office, or why would you run for office? I was one of those individuals that never thought I would run for office, had no political ambitions at all. And I got at the point where what somebody said and what they did was 2 different things. So I opened up my eyes, and the first time I ran, it was a hard race. But when I make a vote, I know that I got to come home and look at my representative in the mirror. And I can say that the votes that I've made, I've been comfortable with that. And we have a lot of votes, and there's been a lot of votes through the years. But I'm a businessman. I've been self-employed for 39 years now. So when I'm looking at rural Louisiana I know what hard times are in business. I know that you can have good times, but I know how trying it can be.
Thank you. Ned White's with us. I'm sorry. Back on my last race there. We are talking about business. You just mentioned business, and I want to ask you a little bit about business. Is it too difficult to do business in the state of Louisiana? Do we have too many hoops to jump through, and what do business owners out there facing as far as challenges?
It's very difficult on a lot of the rules and regulations, and I'll tell a quick story if I can. I was with a president of North American Oil Company, and we were talking about what kept them, and I think this summarizes everyone for all business, but the story I think will tell it the best, is that we was having lunch, and we were talking about different tax rates, we were talking about different permitting, and he said the problem with Louisiana is that we don't set a standard set of rules and leave it that way. And it's so frustrating for them to decide they're going to come make a 15-year investment or whatever it might be, not knowing the rules and regulations. So I would like for the next administration or whoever governor I feel like is going to be Republican, that we try to do that, where we work that we have known what we're going to be working with, that they can actually have a business plan that's 5 years or more working off those.
Next question for you, Mr. Reiser. We had a $2.2 billion surplus down in Baton Rouge. Mm-hmm. Were you happy with how we used that surplus, or how would you have used that surplus?
We ended up paying like $700 million of it down on debt, so we did use a lot good. I voted for it. The last time we had one had been in 09. We had a smaller excess. You have excess, surplus, and excess, so that the number you're speaking of is those combinations that we did. There were things inside the bill that I did not like. Overall, I thought we did a good job, though, handling it and spending it down and paying down on debt that we incurred. At the money cost right now, it made sense that from a business application that you're not paying and reborrowing at those high interest rates.
All right, Mr. Reiser, I want to ask you, should there be an age limit for lawmakers? We've seen some lawmakers. I just did it a second ago. I called you the other guy's name. There might need to be an age limit for forum moderators, but should there be an age limit for lawmakers?
A minimum age or a maximum age?
A maximum limit.
No.
So you don't think so?
No, I really don't think so. I've seen other organizations do that. I've seen business organizations come in and put an age limit on something. And a lot of times, most of the time, they've taking someone out that has a lot of experience in that field. And I think that the individual, especially in the public field, where someone is voting on that individual, if they're not have the capacity, whether or not it be mentally or physically get around, I think the voter would make that determination, just like they'll make the determination in all of these races who they think is most qualified. So my answer to that would be no, I would not think so.
During COVID, a lot of states changed the way that voting happened. They extended poll times. They extended early voting. They made it easier to vote by mail. Is it too easy to vote, too hard to vote? Are there things you'd like to see done as far as voting?
I don't think that we need to make it any easier. I sat on Senate and governmental for 8 years, and to take it to the extreme, I've seen it legislation presented and brought to committee where that they would want to just be able to do it on your cell phone. So you're registering and you're going and voting. This sounds like an extreme, but it's not. So I think we really need to be careful not to head down that road. I might use this in another example, but AI, artificial intelligence, is not something that's Star Trek that might be here, that might be coming. It's here, and it's in its infancy. And it concerns me a lot about what can be done and how it would be manipulated if you were using electronic devices to do so. I
want to ask you, we're talking with Neil Reiser, District 20. Sometimes it feels like lawmakers have their own little kingdoms and they're trying to bring the bacon back to their districts, but what are some regional projects you would work with others in North Louisiana to support?
That's a good question. First, I would like to point out inside my district, and you're looking at House District 20, there's a lot of new roads and there's a lot of new bridges. The last time I checked, there were like 53 bridges, smaller bridges, 2 across the Mississippi River. But the regional impact, if you look and see also that I've worked regional. I work with the area here in Monroe. I know that there's people in my district, whether they be in Franklin, Caldwell mainly, and are working in Alexandria, are working over Concordia, that they transfer back and forth. And any job opportunities we have like that, absolutely.
Thank you. And next question I have for you is about groundwater. And Louisiana has a groundwater problem. We're using more water than is making it back into the ground. Would you address those shortages with business and farming interest and then just drinking water for North Louisiana?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up. When I ran for the first time in 2007, I brought up the issue about water. And on talk shows and even at some debates, was ridiculed and laughed at. Now we see the possibility, not the possibility, 2030, even then at that time, is a crisis. At 2050, it reaches critical mass. Now, Louisiana has a state law on agriculture, though. I think Representative Andy Anderson had it, but you can draw and pump water out of public body ways as the law currently stands in Louisiana.
I want to ask you about drug laws in the state of Louisiana. Should drug laws be eased, or should they be made more strict, or are we about right?
We have the drug laws that we have on those that are actually doing the dealing. And when you talk like with the Sheriff's Association, who I've had a great relationship and great support with, is that sometimes you're making a lot of arrests on somebody that might be casual, or I hate to say that, but the person that's actually bringing that into your community and selling, I think that those should be the most harsh. And I've had family members, I won't go into detail, but I've had family members that's had issues, and I've had friends that had issues with alcohol and other things, and it does not exempt anyone. There's not anyone or any one family that's not affected, and these major players that are bringing in, I just don't think I don't think that the charge could be harsh enough.
Should the state of Louisiana, a lot of states are cashing in on marijuana. Should the state of Louisiana jump on the marijuana train?
Recreational use?
Yes, sir,
marijuana?
recreational.
No, I won't vote with that.
Okay. Let me ask you about your district a little bit.
Sure.
What's your biggest asset that you've got in your district?
The biggest asset that we've done, and when we walk around right now in LaSalle Parish, we're doing building a new technical community college. We've done Delta Community College in Franklin Parish that we've introduced also that I was co-author on an ag tech program, and that goes back to some of the stuff we're talking about. We're in the process of getting that, and we've got several $1 million. Have worked on a project also with a water reservoir that we had spoke of, and I've been working on that for a number of years now, as mentioned, and also on a CO2 sequestration, which is a multi-billion-dollar project.
Speaking of CO2, let me move on to my next one that was in the stack then. Do you believe in climate change and all the climate change things that are going on? Will that help or hurt the state of Louisiana?
I think that Rodney will know who I'm speaking of. He's deceased now. Don Young from Alaska was quite a unique individual. We've been in at least one ice age, and we're still receding out of that ice age, is my opinion. New York City Park is meandering scars that you look at those rocks, and at some point in time, it's just a cycle the world goes through. So I think that's the change that we're in as far as warming and different systems. I think it's just an ever-changing world we live in.
The state of Louisiana, I guess the whole country moving towards electric cars. Louisiana's getting $73 million for electric vehicle chargers. Should we be taking that federal money, or should we stay in an oil-based economy?
No, I serve on natural resources now. I serve on Ways and Means, Natural Resources, and Labor. And in committee, the major oil companies have been clear when we've been talking about CO2 sequestration, when we've been talking about energy source or anything that's along those lines. They've been very concise and clear that they're in the energy sector. And whatever that energy sector is, they'll move and they adopt to it. So, like when General was governor, we turned down a significant number of money. I can't remember, maybe $300 million. I don't remember the Cuomo number. Me and Senator Thompson were the only two that were in favor of taking the money. I think that any time those are our tax dollars that's going to Washington, D.C., and I don't know why we would want them to go to San Francisco or Detroit or anywhere else.
I want to ask you a little bit about the budget process. And this year, it came down to the last few minutes. There was a lot of confusion right there in the last couple of minutes. Is there a better way to do Louisiana's budget, and how would you address the problems we had coming down to the last minute and then finding out stuff over the next few days?
I would like to see that we got the budget like 3 days prior. The process is this: all the budget in state and on federal, the budget originates in the House. Then it goes to the Senate. And when it comes back, you vote to concur on, the Senate has their shot at it, and they'll change it, and normally they'll change 40 or 50% of that, and then upon that time, you're coming back for what would be called a concurrence vote. Now, there was a lot of confusion on that.
One more question for you, and then we'll get to our closing statements. We're talking with Senate District 20 candidate Neil Reiser, and I want to ask you about what issues can Democrats and Republicans get together on and work together in Baton Rouge?
Well, I've been asked that before too, and I say this, and I'm meaning it sincerely. Every day we open with a pledge, a prayer, and we have the pledge, and that pledge is to the republic for which we stand. So every district elects someone that's most similar to the ideals that they believe in. So I always show the respect for that person, because I believe in what we say on the pledge. And so I've always worked across the aisle. If someone does not want to work, or we're on a different page, I don't mind fighting. I'll fight and hold my ground. If they want to fight me and hold their ground, that's fine too. But a lot of times I feel there's always there's a middle ground on most things that you can come to. Sometimes it's not. So you just have to draw a line. And that can be on either side of the line.
I want to thank you for your time tonight, and for the folks who are listening via radio, we're at ULM tonight. We're speaking with Neil Reiser. He is in District 20, and I'll give you a chance to make a 2-minute closing statement.
Okay. Thank you once again for hosting it tonight. As I mentioned, I enjoy what I do, and I've been successful at it because I've taken my business skills that I've learned for 39 years, and prior to that, I grew up in the timber business for that, and living at 14 years old with a hard work ethic. I've never had a job that was 6 days a week, and I can assure you this job is not 6 days a week. And as far as the future is concerned, and I want to tap on this just a little bit, is that we are entering into a world now, I want to say again, with the water issue that we have, and with the AI, the artificial intelligence coming in, and that'd be a wonderful use for the building of the building out there with that we was talking about earlier on 165, and we're doing that at Delta Community in Winsboro. We just have a lot of different issues coming up, and we're going to have to look at our rebates and our credits that we currently receive and how to restructure them to draw the businesses that we most need. And I want to point out, and I want to humbly ask for your vote on October the 14th. Early voting starts on September the 30th, I believe, goes to October September the 30th goes through October the 7th. But once again, I want to humbly ask you for your vote for House District 20.
Thank you. That is Niels Reiser, House District 20. Sir, thanks for being with us tonight. We'll take a quick break right here and hear some words. And for our radio audience, we'll be right back. We're at the University of Louisiana Monroe. When we come back, we're talking District 15. That's up next here on 90.3 KEDM. This is 90.3 KEDM. I'm Cory Crowe. We're at the University of Louisiana Monroe tonight, and we're talking to our candidates for House districts and Senate districts in Ouachita Parish, and it is another in our Meet the Candidates Forum. Tonight's forum made possible by the Monroe Chamber of Commerce, the West Monroe, West Ouachita Chamber of Commerce, the University of Louisiana Monroe Student Government Association, and our friends at Homeland Bank. We want to thank them for sponsoring tonight's event. We're out live at ULM tonight. We're on the 7th floor of the library, and we're also on Facebook this evening live. If you want to watch the video, you can look for 90.3 KEDM on Facebook and find that. At this time, I'd like to bring up Chris Kelly. He is the Executive Director of the West Monroe, West Ouachita Chamber. Chris?
Thanks, Cory. On behalf of the West Monroe, West Ouachita Chamber, the Monroe Chamber of Commerce, and KEDM, we're so proud of the candidates that have shown up and expressed their keen interest in supporting the projects and the many proposals that are flowing through our district. We recognize that it is giving of yourself as much as it is being a voice for our district. Just a reminder, absentee voting, you have to request by Tuesday, October 10th, and return that form by Friday, October 13th at 4:30 p.m. Of course, all that information is online at voterportal.sos.la.gov. Thanks.
All right, and we appreciate the support of the West Monroe, West Ouachita Chamber. Chris is doing double duty tonight. He is our timer on the front row as well, and he has the power of the bell. And when you go over, you get the little ding. All right, it's time for State Representative District 15. And two candidates running in 15, Scotty Robinson, who's not with us this evening, and Foy Gadberry, who is with us this evening. So at this moment, we'll have an opening statement from Mr. Gadberry. I'll give you 2 minutes to tell folks about yourself and why you're running.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to express my appreciation to the Chamber and to ULM and also to KEDM Radio for having this forum today. My name's Foy Gadberry. I've lived in Ouachita Parish for 43 years now. I graduated from Louisiana Tech in architecture and then again in civil engineering. I've had business here, engineering businesses here in the Monroe, West Monroe area for over 40 years and have designed tons and tons of subdivisions in the western part of the parish, multiple building structures, roads, bridges, water and sewer systems. So I'm very acclimated to the infrastructure part of the legislature. I've always been a conservative voter. I will always vote to protect our family values, our children, and protect our Second Amendment rights. I sit on three committees. I'm probably the only House rep that sits on 3 committees. I sit on transportation, which is right down my alley. I sit on House and Government, which I helped manipulate the maps this past year for redistricting. Probably one of only 5 people that really dug into the maps because that's my forte. And also I'm on Municipal and Parochial Committee, which deals with municipalities.
Looking at the questions, I gave those other guys all the easy questions. I've got the hard ones for you. So here we go. I'm going to start with the worst one. Should lawmakers get a pay raise?
I think they not the one that was proposed was, let's go back to 1980 and see what it is today, and it was like $60,000 a year. You're cutting out, one aspect is you're cutting out people making a living. The other, so you're sending people down there that have their own businesses or they're retired. So that middle class of people that's trying to struggle and build their families and build their homes and their businesses, they can't afford to leave and go down there. I don't think it ought to jump that much. I think maybe they ought to look at, let's start with the consumer price index next year and just increment that over a period of time.
Okay, thank you. Jobs are a must for a vibrant economy. What steps would you take to get more jobs into our region?
I think we need to increase our educational funding. We've got a great bill that was passed last year was if you can't read third grade, you don't need to go on. That was a great bill by Representative Nelson. But we have to educate the people to at least read. People can't read. They're graduating from high school today and they can't even read. We've got to put more money into education and educate those people so that they stay here in the Louisiana area.
In the news today, First Lady Jill Biden has COVID. The guy sitting next to me the other night at the football game had COVID too. So I was thinking about COVID. We closed the economy down during COVID. Was that worth it? And we've got a resurgence of COVID right now. Would you go through all those steps again?
I don't know that I'd go to the extreme that we went to. What we did was March 9th, I remember that date, we recessed the legislature. Well, the next month, I got a paycheck from them. And I said, why are you paying us? We're not even in session. I'm going to give this money back to you because we're not working. They said, oh, no, you can't give it back to us. But I don't think we need to go to the extremes we went to. The people that want to mask up can mask up. Again, if you don't mask, you may be spreading the disease, but I don't think we need to go to the extremes that we went to.
All right. We're speaking tonight with Foy Gadberry, State Representative, District 15 is what we're talking about. And this one was in the news today, too. State Farm pulled 100% of their home insurance in California yesterday. Louisiana has its own insurance struggles. What, if any, incentives would you support for the insurance industry to write more policies in Louisiana?
Well, we had a special session in February and gave the Commissioner of Insurance $45 million to help entice insurance companies to stay in the state and write insurance. The end result of that was he didn't have enough money. He wanted more money. He wanted $60 million. Of course, the session was over at that point. Those insurance companies are starting to pull back out of the state. I don't know how you can force someone to write insurance, but we've got to get, in my opinion, in South Louisiana in particular, with the hurricanes, you've got to fortify those buildings more. Now that's building code official. I know I pursued that this year with Senator Henry, and of course it died on the vine, but that's going to come back up, and that'll fortify the homes and buildings more.
I want to ask you about crime. Are Louisiana laws too lax on crime? What are your thoughts on crime?
I think they are too lax. If someone commits a crime, they need to go to jail. I mean, now there are extenuating circumstances, et cetera, that you got to work through. But the problem that I see and have heard about is the judges are letting these people off and not doing their job. My opinion, we need better judges.
Is the state of Louisiana too reliant on oil and gas money? And if we all go to electric cars and the whole country goes to electric cars, what happens in Louisiana's future?
I think we still need to rely on oil and gas. It just so happens that I was appointed to a task force on electric vehicles. And the talk was, there was a bill passed 2 years ago that Well, we're going to charge electric vehicle owners $110 a year, and they have to put that on their taxes, claim it on their taxes. Well, I don't think people are going to claim it on their taxes. The place it needs to be is with OMV. When you renew your license, it's tied to the title of that vehicle. Now, that was the talk, but that's what they kind of want to do. Well, I looked at, let's equate 1 gallon of gas to how many kilowatts of power is equal to 1 gallon of gas, so that they're paying, the electric vehicles are paying that gas tax too, like the 20-cent gas tax that we're doing. So the equation was, for every 9 kilowatts of electricity you charge is equivalent to 1 gallon of gas. So when you go charge, it's going to click off that 20-cent tax per every 9 kilowatts that you charge. That would be equivalent to it. It also, if we go to hydrogen gas vehicles in the future, you can equate how many gallons of gas is equal to how many gallons of hydrogen gas. So you can equate that. If you want to use fruit, you can figure out how much fruit it's going to take to run a vehicle versus how many gallons of gas.
I want a banana-powered car.
So to me, that's comparing apples to apples, okay?
That would be fun to have a banana car. All right, I want to ask you about artificial intelligence. Are laws needed in the state of Louisiana to rein in artificial intelligence, or should the free market determine the future for AI?
My understanding is that's a growing concern. Artificial intelligence, they can do just about anything, apparently. And we're going to have to look at the trend and see what kind of laws need to be passed. Maybe no laws need to be passed.
I got an easy one here, but it may be hard. I'm not sure. What makes the state of Louisiana great?
It's people. It's the climate here is great. You know, I've lived all over. I lived in South America, Central America, the Western states, Washington, D.C., Lafayette, Arkansas, and I've settled here in Louisiana because I love this climate and the people here in Louisiana.
I want to ask you a little bit about the Louisiana film tax credit for film and TV productions. What are your thoughts on the film tax credit? Should we have it? Should it go away? Is it helping? Is it hurting?
Well, it's my understanding that there's one side that says we need to get rid of them, but that more importantly, those film industries come into the state, they produce jobs, they produce economy in the areas they're filming, so I think we should keep them. Now, maybe we should rein them in some, but I think they're a great thing as far as the economy.
Question about higher education. Higher ed has struggled with students paying more and more tuition and the government paying less and less of the cost. How should Louisiana address funding for higher education?
This year, I think we funded them more than they have normally received in years past. Again, we've got to educate our people, or they're not going to stay in this state. They're going to go somewhere else, or they're not going to have jobs. We've got to, fund higher education more than we are now.
I asked the candidates for governor sitting there the other night if I could give them superpower or make them the king, and they could only get one thing done in the state of Louisiana as governor. So if you had those superpowers tonight, you could only get one thing, one issue passed, one thing done for the state. What would it be?
That's a multifaceted question, but if I could snap my fingers and say, we need industry here in North Louisiana in particular, to bring jobs here, that would get our economy rolling.
I've got one more, and then we'll get to closing statements. We're talking tonight with Foy Gadberry, State Representative District 15 is what we're talking about this evening. What projects would you propose for your district? What would you like to see done in 15?
Well, it just so happens that this year, for the 4 years I've been in the legislature, I've tried to get the Calhoun area project dollars. They have never had a penny in project dollars. So I worked 4 years. There's a wellness center out there. I was able this year to get them $150,000 to pave or put a synthetic surface on their track out there. I also pushed a $7 million grant from the feds for revamping their entire water system. They're going to lay all new pipe. They're going to be connecting it to the Cadeville water system, which will help both systems. And that was, a big deal for them.
I got a couple of more here because I'm ahead of time, so let me ask you a few more, and then we'll get to that closing statement. Some lawmakers around the country are supporting banning some books at public libraries. Is this stopping free expression or ideas, or do we need to do that to protect children and the general population?
I'm an advocate of protecting the children. A kindergarten, second grade, third grade, even up to the seventh grade, they don't need to be reading pornographic type material. Their parents can talk to them. Once they get in high school, they have a health course that they can discuss those items. But young kids, they're too influential. Their peers say, oh, you do this, do that. I don't think that ought to be available to them.
All right. And another question for you I was thinking about is when I was young and I graduated ULM, my wife's a pharmacist. We took off to Dallas because there wasn't a lot of pharmacy jobs here, and there were plenty of them over there. So we left town and went to Dallas. We found out they didn't have good seafood. We came back. So how do you keep the young Louisiana folks in Louisiana and keep them from heading off to see the world?
Well, when I got out of college finally in '79 after getting my 2 degrees, I looked hard in North Louisiana for a job, Shreveport, Monroe area. Couldn't find one, but I did accept a job in Little Rock, Arkansas. I worked there about 20 months, and I wanted to come back to Louisiana, even though I was not born in Louisiana. I love Louisiana. I wanted to come back here. So I came back in 1980 and have been here ever since.
We're speaking tonight with Representative District 15. We're talking tonight with Foy Gadberry. Mr. Gadberry running against Scotty Robinson. I'll give you a chance tonight to make a 2-minute closing statement.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say that, I'm not one, I don't have an ego. I'm not here to be a politician. I'm an engineer. I'm not a politician. What I bring to the legislature is that technical ability that most legislatures don't understand. When I present bills, most of the time I'm talking over their heads because they have no idea what I'm talking about. I have to explain to them, for instance, one bill that came through, a lady was talking about a retention pond in South Louisiana, but in actuality it was a detention pond. I had to explain the difference to her. And then the committee members after the vote came up and said, I'm glad you did that because I had no idea what she was talking about. And I said, well, don't you think you ought to ask enough questions to understand what you're fixing to vote on? That's my frustration down there, is most of them do not know what they're voting on. They just listen and say, I'm going to vote for that or I'm not going to vote for that. So, but, I was instrumental in, of course, pushing that $7 million project in Calhoun, which Calhoun has no municipality. They're under the parish's auspices or government. I obtained funding for Ouachita Parish school system. They called me out of the blue and said, hey, we're fixing to open this middle school in Sterlington, and we don't have money to do the turn lanes. Can you try and find us some money? I said, well, you're my school system. That's not my district, but I'll be glad to help you. I went to DOTD and got them that funding. Then the bid went over, $500,000. They asked me to go back and get some more money. I tried to go back and get some more money, and we've got that worked out where they got that money, and they will be able to open that school on time. I want to thank you for having me here tonight, and I would humbly ask you for my vote, or for your vote. I think I've done a good job, and I want to continue at least 4 more years in doing so. Thank you.
That is Foy Gadberry tonight talking about issues facing District 15. When we come back in just a bit, we're talking about Senate District 34. Katrina Jackson running against James Joe Boy Smith, and we're going to find out all about District 34 in just a moment. You're listening to the KEDM Meet the Candidates Forum on 90.3 KEDM Public Radio. All right. KEDM Monroe, a community service of the University of Louisiana Monroe. I'm Cory Crowe. We're at ULM tonight for the KEDM Meet the Candidates Forum. KEDM, in conjunction with the Monroe Chamber of Commerce, the West Monroe West Ouachita Chamber, the ULM Student Government Association, and KEDM, all working together to put tonight's event on. And we've got a live radio audience with us tonight. We've got a live audience in the room at the University of Louisiana Monroe. Before we get into our final group of the night, I want to bring up KEDM General Manager Jay Curtis to say a few words.
Thank you, Cory, and thank you everyone so much for being here, or if you're watching tonight live, listening tonight live, or if you're watching tonight or listening some other time after the fact, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you being part of this political process. And in public radio, we find this incredibly valuable. A live event, having candidates answer questions on the spot to be able to get you information, not just about what one candidate says in their media or what one candidate says in the pamphlet that they hand to you, but being able to get them on the spot right next to each other answering exactly the same questions. If that's something that you find value in, this is fundraising season for public radio. So we start our fall membership drive coming up on Friday morning, and we love for you to be a part of this campaign. Every dollar raised goes toward the programming that we provide, both local programming, national and international programming. The great thing about public radio is you get that all in one place. You also get a live streaming video, you get our YouTube channel, you get our live streaming, and our website, KEDM.org. It all comes with just a few dollars a month from you. So right now we're asking for you to make a donation to KEDM. Start out the fall membership drive as early as you possibly can. Make your gift today at KEDM.org. You choose the amount, but think about every single time that you've depended on KEDM to bring you story, whether that's national news headlines, whether that's something that happened right here in Monroe, severe weather, local council races, local government races. That is all part of what we do. We find that incredibly valuable. If you do too, we're asking you to pick an amount, maybe just $5 or $10 a month, and make a gift. You can do that tonight at KEDM.org. And thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Jay also doing double duty tonight. He's over there directing our video. Got a degree in that from ULM, so he's good at it. Folks, I have a degree in that too, but I'm not using that tonight. I'm using the radio side of my degree tonight. We're talking about Senate District 34 and 2 candidates in District 34, Katrina Jackson and Reverend James Joe Boy Smith with us tonight. And just a moment ago in the break, we had a chance to spin our little random app and figure out who got to go first tonight. So we're going to make opening statements tonight. And Katrina Jackson, you got the honor of the first opening statement tonight. So I'll give you 2 minutes to talk to the folks.
Thank you so much. Listen, I'm excited to be back at ULM, where we produce the best of the Bayou. I'm a native daughter of Northeast Louisiana, born and raised in Monroe, Louisiana. I actually went to this prestigious university as well as Southern University Law Center. I'm an attorney and business owner. Here with me this evening are a host of supporters and my fiance, Samuel Andrews, who is a pastor and assistant principal in this area. We are together merging in love for our community, for each other and our family, to raise a 20-year-old Southern University college student. our nephew, who is a 9th grader at Ouachita High School, who resides with us now, and a 20-year-old student that we share the benefit and the strain of giving money to here at ULM. She is a beautiful child, but doesn't understand the value of a dollar bill yet. And so we are always busy, but always committed. After staffing in the legislature for 7 years, I decided to run for public office. I decided to run for public office under the commitment that Northeast Louisiana deserved its fair share, and the people of our state deserved a better budget. As your state rep and senator for the last 12 years, I've continued in this passion by ensuring that both business and industry, as well as the people of this district, grow. Understanding that by investing in people, we invest in businesses by helping to provide a strong and stable workforce. We are supportive and committed of a strong economic system in our area while supporting rural initiatives. While being state senator for the last 4 years, we've taken on 5 new parishes, and it is truly a regional district. We remain committed to the people of this district, to the businesses of this district, and to our families. We love Northeast Louisiana. I've always called it home, and I'm happy to serve you.
Thank you. That is Katrina Jackson. And I forgot to point out, Chris Kelly's here on the front row from the West Monroe Chamber, and Chris is going to be timing us tonight. He has little cards to let you know how much time, and he's got a bell. If you go over time, he'll ring the bell. We hadn't heard the bell tonight. We might get to here in a bit. Reverend James Smith is with us tonight. Reverend Smith, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to make an opening statement. Tell folks about yourself.
I'm Pastor James E. Smith. I was born and raised in Rayville, Louisiana. I was raised up in this Northeast Louisiana region. I pastor the Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church. I've been there 25 years. I know this region back and forth. And we live in one of the most poorest regions in the world, but it's one of the richest regions. And my goal is to revitalize it. People are leaving the state of Louisiana, and I want to revitalize it because we got to revitalize the small communities. We got to revitalize the downtown. We got to revitalize the small communities. We got to help the old lady that can't get in her house with water in it. We got to revitalize the water systems in all the little small towns. And when you start revitalizing, and if you remember in Chicago, they did urban cities. They had from 35th Street to 63rd Street, one of the worst areas in the world. When they revitalized it, the economy changed. So when we revitalize and change the image of these small communities, then people are going to want to come back and move in. I do economic development. When in Rayville, what we did, Mayor Howard Lewis and I, we came in 2000. We got $6 million to revamp the water system, another $6 million to revamp the sewer system. We brought in over 200 and some new homes, and we breathe life into this community. So we got to breathe life in these poor communities. These people living on the subcommittee. So that's why I'm here.
Reverend Smith, we drew for who got the first question too, and it'll go to Reverend Smith. I'm going to start with the bad stuff, and then we'll get that out of the way and get to the good stuff in a minute. But I want to ask you, what infrastructure problems does your district face, and how would you work to address them?
We got one of the worst infrastructures for water and sewage and drainage, like down in Fairleigh, behind the Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's caving in down there. You go to Waterproof, they got sewage problem. And Bonita's not even in the district. I just got $900,000 where the sewage is caving in. And then you come up to Lake Providence, they got water problem, sewage problem. You come to Madison Parish, they addressed the water problem, but they still got little sewage problem. They got highway problem. Then you come to Rayville, we're growing, but we also need help, you know. So, you know, we in bad shape. And then you stop off in the little small towns and the areas, nobody go by and stop on them and check on them. That's why they're dying. But they are rich communities.
Question next comes to you, Katrina Jackson. I want to ask you, what infrastructure problems does your district face, and how would you work to address them?
Well, our main problem is water and sewage, and we've been working to address those. A couple of years ago, The legislature created the Water and Sewer Sector Program. You're seeing awards all over the state, especially in Northeast Louisiana, to address those sewer systems, those water systems. What we could not get in the Water and Sewer Sector Program, Northeast delegation worked hard to bring home the highest amount of capital outlay for infrastructure that we've ever seen in this area in history, and that's what we're basically doing to address it. There are other issues like in all over Louisiana, there's an issue with the transportation, with the roads, and we are constantly pecking away at that. I will tell you what I and this delegation and the state legislature did by bipartisan support. In my first year in the legislature, we passed the Clean Penny Bill that I authored, and Senator Jay Morris authored the accompanying bill. Business and industry came together and we plugged a $3 billion deficit. And since plugging that deficit, Louisiana has been out of that deficit, and Northeast Louisiana has been seeing a lot of improvements in infrastructure.
I'll give the next question to you first, Ms. Jackson. I want to ask you about marijuana. The state of Louisiana has medical marijuana, but I went to Alaska recently, and it's all over the place, and it's recreational there. Should Louisiana be cashing in on marijuana and the potential tax revenue?
Well, I do see the benefit of the potential tax revenue, and so I voted for medical marijuana. I saw the need because we had a young lady when I was on the Health and Welfare Committee in the House to come to us, and she was having 35 seizures a day. Her family moved to Denver, and she received medical marijuana, and she was reduced to about 2 or 3 seizures a day and able to attend school. However, I've opted out of voting for the recreational marijuana and visiting Colorado and a number of other places who have legalized recreational marijuana. You can't go downtown without smelling the scent. You can't enjoy a weekend with your family anywhere without smelling the scent of marijuana. Although it may have some financial benefit, one thing that law enforcement made very clear to us is that recreational marijuana draws a thin line and increases crime, because at that point, it's a gateway drug for other drugs to be used, and that has caused serious issues in some of those states.
All right, thank you. And next we'll go to you, Reverend James Smith. Many states are cashing in on marijuana. Should Louisiana follow that suit?
I don't have a problem with the medical marijuana, but being a user myself and had problems during my childhood and everything, and God saved me, marijuana will become a problem. It's a light drug, so I know the struggle of marijuana. And then when you get ready to drive trucks across the state, you can't hold a job, you know. So it has you know, medical marijuana fine, but marijuana being legal, no, you know, because you're causing a problem for our youth and everything else. And it's not a recreational drug. I'm talking from experience. I know what it does to you. And so, and when I was in the military, when they smoking hash and all of that, so I know from personal experience. And God saved me, and I just know that it's not a good deal.
Question comes to you first, Reverend Smith. I want to ask you about gun laws. We've got a lot of gun violence. Do you support any stricter enforcement of gun laws or any strengthening of gun laws?
The gun laws is the people. It's the people. People mentally, it's more mentally ill people out here, and it's people, loose people. You got gangs, you got all these things. Guns are not the problem. It's people. It's people, period. You know, you got hoodlums, you got all these things. You got hate crimes, and if you sit a gun over there, it's not gonna come shoot me. So it's not the gun. Let's find out the problem with the hate and the mental things, and then we can solve the gun problem. The drug problem make the gun problems. Those are the way I look at it in life. You know, you study trying to solve the gun problem. The gun ain't doing the shooting. It's the people that hold the gun. So that's what we got to find a solution to the people.
Thank you. That is Reverend James Smith. And question comes to you next, Ms. Jackson. Do you support strengthening gun laws, or what are your thoughts on gun laws?
I have a record of it, and I have supported strengthening some of the gun laws without being overly obsessive and taking away the Second Amendment right. I own a beautiful pink and green gun that I had custom made right here in my district, and so I believe in the right to bear arms, but I also believe that we know that there are many people with mental health issues, and when we can't get bills passed for mental health screenings before purchasing a gun, that is an issue. And so I think we have to be realistic that crime is happening, that guns are getting into the wrong hand of people who are bad actors. And with that, we must look for logical gun restrictions or gun laws, gun safety laws is what I call it. You know, we passed this gun-free zones in schools, and because it was our children, everyone thought it was a great idea. I think we've adopted a Washington-style politics on sound bites on the Second Amendment right. Mostly everyone in Louisiana enjoys the right to bear arms. It's how we do it and what we support that's reasonable, like the those school laws that have gun-free zones. But mental health checks are needed. Stronger mental health checks will do it, and I received the bell.
You're the first one of the night to get the bell. Good job, Chris. Thank you for manning the bell over
and
there.
he did it with a smile.
He did it nicely. You only got one ding. If you go crazy, you get 2 or 3 dings. All right, Ms. Jackson, I want to ask you about the Medicaid expansion. Was it a good thing for Louisiana?
It was a great thing for Louisiana, especially rural Louisiana. In Northeast Louisiana, if you talk to any hospital administrator, they will tell you, absent the acceptance of Medicaid expansion when Governor Airwood signed it into law, they would be closed or not offering the services that they offer. We have to judge Medicaid expansion not based on national politics and national sound bites, but about how it is taking care of our people, how it has given us a stronger, healthier workforce and brought mothers to work who wouldn't have otherwise been at work. We have to look at our hospitals, and when you look at the facts in Northeast Louisiana, when you separate that from every national sound bite, every party sound bite you hear, you just realize that Medicaid expansion was a people issue, and it brought people back to where they were healthier. But it was a rural Louisiana and rural American issue that solved the issues with a shortage of healthcare dollars in our rural areas, in our rural hospitals. I've talked to them all around the nation, and they believe it's wonderful.
Reverend Smith, I want to ask you about Medicaid expansion. Was it a good thing for the state of Louisiana?
It was one of the best things in the state, for the state of Louisiana. We have one of the highest sickness areas in the United States. The district we in is in 34 is one of we have high blood pressure, we got diabetes, we got infants. So it had to be a winner for us that people could go and get the health care that they needed in this area. You know, we are one of the most diseased culture in this area. And so we needed that. We need to expand that some more so that we can get the health care for the senior citizens and the young. We got young people got diabetes now in elementary school. We got young people that got high blood pressure and going to school. You got young people that got problems right now. And so, yeah, that was one of the best things that ever could have happened in America.
Thank you, Reverend Smith. We're here tonight at the University of Louisiana Monroe, and we're talking with candidates from Senate District 34, Katrina Jackson running against Reverend James Smith. Reverend Smith, this one goes to you first. How would you attract more business to North Louisiana? And what kind of businesses would you like to see here in North Louisiana?
First thing I would do, I would revitalize the community. I would clean it up. It's just like you going in the grocery store shopping. If you go in the grocery store shopping and you go to the bakery, and when you pass the bakery, if they got a coconut cake there, if it look good, you might walk down, but you're gonna come back to that cake because that cake gonna attract you. So when people traveling through the rural area and they see these boards up in front of these up and on these boards, and they see the town running down, you got to revitalize this. You got to become attractive for business to want to come do business. And so we got to, that's why I say revitalize. We got to do the water, we got to enhance the community, we got to get the boards off, and we got to shape up, and then we can invite people to come in. That's how we're gonna do it.
Mrs. Jackson, question will go to you. how do you attract businesses to North Louisiana, and what kind of things would you want to attract?
Sure, by doing what this legislative delegation, these chambers, and everyone has joined together to do for the last 4 years. That's number one, fund higher education. Begin to inject funding into K through 12, which is what we've done. Also to begin to up our infrastructure dollars to deal with the issues with water, sewer, to deal with our roads. Those are the things that have been attracting businesses and people back to Northeast Louisiana and all over this state, to take a good look at what's needed in our early childhood education programs, which we are doing now and we have been doing. Louisiana was on a downward spiral about 12 years ago, and that downward spiral was mostly because our state had given away all of its financial resources. As we've brought some back in, we've created fast-track programs at Delta Community College and community colleges all over this state to make sure when business and industry wanted to move in and wanted to come here, that we had fast-track programs to train our citizens. Those are the things we are doing and that we should continue to do.
Question will come to you next, Mrs. Jackson. I want to ask you about Governor John Bel Edwards. He's on his way out as he can't run again this time. How did he do as a governor for the state of Louisiana? What are your thoughts on him?
Everyone knows this. I'm very open. Governor Edwards is a friend of mine, both politically and personally. I served in the legislature with him. He ran for office when everyone told him he was crazy, and being from a small district like this one is smaller because he was in the House, he couldn't do it. He did a wonderful job. He signed Medicaid expansion into law when it wasn't that popular, that kept and undergirded our healthcare system. He supported the Clean Penny Bill and Senator Jay Morris' bill. He brought bipartisan legislation. He funded our healthcare system again and our higher education system by bipartisan efforts. He simply did what he promised to do, and that was to put people over politics. He's invited to chambers all over this state. I attended ours, and I saw how his farewell welcoming was just great in nature with a great number of people here at this university. Because the one thing we can say, he showed us that party has no place over people. And that if we're going to lead, we must lead, number one, in our faith, but also in our love and commitment to our people.
Reverend James Smith with us. Reverend Smith, I want to ask you the same question. Governor John Bel Edwards is on his way out of office. How did he do for the state of Louisiana? What are your thoughts?
I think he did a fine job, but when he was campaigning, I was everywhere with him, and he did a great job. And I like the way he managed. He managed Democrats and Republicans. He worked with them on both sides of the aisle. And I supported him when he first went in. I stayed a lot down in his office, and he did a great job. You can't take that from the man. I mean, he is what it is, you know. And I think he was very bipartisan with everybody. He did the best job that out of all the last 2 or 3 governors, he has done a wonderful job.
Thank you, Reverend Smith. Reverend Smith, I asked somebody earlier tonight, I want to ask you the question. Do you have an idol in politics, a politician that you look up to? And what qualities did that politician have that you have in common with them?
I got into this thing when I first got started, and it goes way back in the 80s and 90s when Charles Jones and them was in. But I didn't idolize them, but I watched them. I had him. I watched Francis. I watched some great people in the state of the governor. Elvis, he died. But I watched some great people, and I watched how they did things economically and for the people. And those people really cared about people, and that's what I care about. I don't care about Democrat or Republican. When I joined the Army to serve the American people. I ain't worried about it. I had to change to Republican because the Democratic Party wouldn't accept me. So I'm not in this for this. I want to help this poor district.
Thank you, Reverend Smith. Ms. Jackson, same question. Do you have a political idol, and are there qualities that they have that you share in common with them?
Well, I don't idolize anyone because my belief in God, but I have people who I respect greatly in politics. 2 of those men Reverend Smith mentioned are former Senator Charles Jones and former Representative Willie Hunter, who have supported me for 12 years and have announced their support now. Those qualities were just simple, that you took care of the people you represented, that you put party last and people first, because then you would actually get something done, that you worked across the lines, that you didn't see color, but you saw love in people. I have great respect for Governor John Bell Edwards, who we mentioned, because he did what many said he couldn't do, and he did it while remaining very humble. And so there are people who I have great respect for and who I always have respect for, but at the end of the day, it comes down to whether you've learned from them and whether you take what you learned and you implement it. And to me, that's the greatest respect that you can show anyone.
I want to ask you, Mrs. Jackson, about you've been out campaigning, you're out meeting people and walking the streets and neighborhoods and that sort of thing. What's the most encouraging thing you've seen or heard while you've been out on the campaign trail from somebody?
When a little senior tells you you did exactly what you said you were going to do, and you've continued to do it. You remain true to this district, and you remain true to your values. When your junior senators who've served, we have a junior senator program, and you knock on the door and they're there, and they truly believe they're still the senator for District 34, and they begin to knock on the doors with you, and they begin to follow you. One thing that we did that for was because we wanted to show young people all over this district that they can do exactly what we are doing and that they had a voice in this matter. Those have been some of the most encouraging things. Or when someone says, why are you knocking on your this door? You know we already have you. I tell them because I respect them enough to ask each time I come up for an election.
Thank you. Reverend Smith, I'll ask you that question. You've been out campaigning, knocking on doors, walking through neighborhoods. What's the most encouraging thing anybody's told you while you've been out on the campaign trail?
I know. One of the most, the old lady that needed a house fixed, and I went to USDA and helped her find the loan, and she just cried. And then the people like in Faraday, when they needed, they wanted their houses tore down, and the people, I was down there and I helped them find a grant to tear their houses down. But I also had a program up in Ouachita Parish called Delta Ready, where I took young people during the summer and created jobs. They got paid they dropouts. I had over 500 kids that dropped out, but I put them in careers in places to work, and they got paid to go to work, and they got a career out of it. And now most of those people have jobs, and I see them from day to day.
Reverend Smith, Louisiana just had a $2.2 billion surplus. Were you happy with how Louisiana used that money, or would you have done something different with it?
I didn't. I'll be truthful. I didn't. I think they could have did something better with it. You know, I think they could have left some for more better projects in there. When John Bell, I understand when he came in, he had a zero budget. But then when he going out, it seemed to me that you just you shouldn't leave out like the way you come in. And you could have maintained a little bit better.
Mrs. Jackson, the surplus, $2.2 billion, were you happy with how that turned out, or would you have used that money for something different?
I wasn't happy with the process, as you know, and as many know, we ended session and we came home and we found out things were not in the budget. It seems that some at the last minute, I've been on the conference committee, that's the last 6 members to see the budget before it comes back to the floor, and we dealt honestly with each other. It seems that others that were on the committee may not have been as forthcoming, not even with the chairman of the committee. But how we use it overall for Northeast Louisiana, what we came home with, the highest infrastructure budget we've ever seen, I am extremely pleased with. I think ULM is pleased with. I think business and industry is pleased with. So for us, although it was a struggle at the end and we found out some things that we did not like, we are going to, at some point, get a new cancer treatment center here in Northeast Louisiana that will serve parts of all of Northeast Louisiana. We're going to get the Biomedical Research Center. Northeast Louisiana has, ULM has the highest infrastructure budget that it has ever seen. So I may not be happy with the process, but I'm happy how we work together.
Thank you. I want to ask, you're next, Mrs. Jackson. So question is about child care funding. how do you feel about child care funding in Louisiana? And do we need to do more or less, change the programs? What are your thoughts on funding for child care?
Child care funding is receiving an increase this year, but not the increase that we believe it deserved, or I believe it deserved. I do believe we need to change the program a bit. Those who receive jobs sometimes never get to walk on those jobs because they're on a continuous waiting list. So doing some type of change is what I'm actually talking to staff about now, that when a person comes in and has been offered a job, there's some type of emergency child care assistance where they're not waiting 5 to 6 months for a voucher and allowing 3 and 4 jobs to pass them up. An employer should be able to fast track it, send a letter and say, we've offered this person a job at this rate of pay, and they can start in this amount of time if they have child care. That is the change I would make. The job readiness part, that is something Louisiana is going to have to do as a whole with all of its programs, plan more for those who are entering the workforce, especially parents.
Reverend Smith, child care funding. What are your thoughts on child care funding? Or are we doing the right thing, or are there things you'd like to see?
I was a truancy officer at Raver High School. I was there 16 years. And so I dealt with a lot of pregnancy girls, young ladies that was in high school. And it's very well needed. Those young girls had to come back to school and they didn't have anything. Their grandmother and them was up in age and their mama and them wouldn't keep the baby. And so, yeah, it's very well needed. You got kids that and I ain't talking about just parents. I'm talking about young kids in the 10th grade, 11th grade, they have a baby. And so Delta Head Start had this program for help child care. So yeah, it's a needed area, and that's one of the biggest things in our region in District 34. That's one of the high rates. Her fiance is at Richwood. He could tell you that's a problem, because you got that child that want to come to school, and she can't come to school because she can't find a daycare center. And so that I know this. So it's a good thing.
Thank you, Reverend Smith. Reverend Smith, this is going to be my last question, and then we're going to get to the closing statements. I want to ask you, if you're like me, I get to travel a lot, and I go to other states, and I see good things that other states are doing. Is there some idea from another state you might want to steal and bring back to Louisiana, something that somebody's doing maybe better than we are?
Not really. I just think we can do something better. I want to say this. In Northeast Louisiana, we can do a whole lot better. Let me say this. A lot of people having problems with water. In Northeast Louisiana, I'm saying from Monroe back to all our districts, from Ferret and all this, we don't have to go 100 feet to find water. We got land. We just need to revitalize everything and then make people come to us. If we can do those things, then water and make sure that infrastructure is good, in the next 20 years or 15 years, we will be companies will be trying to knock the door down to come to Northeast Louisiana. And I don't see no other town or city when I travel across the state that does what we can do. We got rivers, we got everything that everybody needs. We just need to revitalize it and make it better.
Thank you, Reverend James Smith. We're speaking tonight with District 34 candidates. Katrina Jackson, I want to ask you something another state's doing, and if you could steal that idea and bring it back to Louisiana, what would it be?
Sure, there are 2 things that I focus on greatly. Number one, I traveled with the Secretary of Juvenile Justice when I was in the House in my first term, and we decided to adopt the rehabilitative model of service in juvenile justice, and it was supposed to be implemented at Swanson in a lot of places and all over the state. We did not adopt that model holistically, because we did not put the dollars into the model to adopt it holistically. And so we left out on mental health treatment and other services needed to youth. We're seeing that play out in our juvenile justice system now. And I would go back and adopt that Missouri model and fully fund it. Lastly, and there's a host of other things we can take from other states, is this. In the state of Texas, we've seen DCFS deal with a lot of issues. In the state of Texas, they have night workers. They have 2 different shifts, and they are properly funded. And with that, they protect their children. I would adopt that model and get 2 different shifts so our caseworkers are not overburdened with our children and the issues that are occurring in their homes.
Thank you. We'll get to closing statements in just a moment, but I want to remind you that early voting will begin on September 30th. It will continue through Saturday, October 7th, and it's every day except for Sunday, October 1st, and that's from 8:30 in the morning till 6 at night, and you go to the Parish Registrar of Voters to vote early. Also, absentee ballots are out there, and a chance to vote early with absentee ballots. You can request those, but you must do so before Tuesday, October 10th at 4:30, and then you have to get that ballot back on Friday the 13th by 4:30 p.m., 13th of October. Didn't know we had a Friday the 13th coming up this time. So, and my mom is also texting me. She says she's listening, so that's a good thing tonight. So you can ask my mom for her vote here in just a moment. Senate District 34, time for closing statements tonight. And Reverend Smith, we drew earlier. I'm going to give you 2 minutes for the final closing statement tonight, and ask folks for their vote this evening.
Yeah. My number is 49. I would like you to vote for 49, but I'm in this district to make it better. I want to revitalize these communities. I want to enhance the way you live with the senior citizens. I want to create jobs for the young people. I want to be able to do great things in this community. But revitalization is what we need. I've seen what it does in urban cities, and we need it in small communities. If Monroe gonna grow and West Monroe go, we got to revitalize rural areas, and that's the only way it's gonna grow. We got to bring in good doctors. We got to support our hospitals, and one thing we got to do is pinpoint our failing schools. We got to work on that, and we got schools in our district that we need to bring up to 8. That's revitalizing, making jobs, and people want to come into our school area. So I want you to vote 49, and I got a purpose.
Thank you. That is Reverend James Joe Boy Smith, and he is running for Senate District 34. Our final closing statement tonight goes to Ms. Katrina Jackson. I'll give you 2 minutes.
Thank you. I've been your senator for 4 years now. It encompasses 7 parishes, and the one thing that we've always said and we've done is that in order for one of us to thrive, all of us have to thrive. I came in with the truth and faith that we all deserve to live a better life, that Northeast Louisiana deserves its fair share at the table, that our educational system needed to be better, that our professors needed to stop guessing whether they were going to be contracted because they had to wait to see what the legislature was cutting. We needed stability, and we're finally bringing that back. We also needed water and infrastructure and sewer issues taken care of, and you've seen the water and sewer sector program doing that. Verity has received another $1.9 million to update a system that's about 8 years old, so we can keep updating those systems. St. Joseph, Louisiana received an entire new system. If you go throughout Monroe, Louisiana, Rayville, East Carroll, you're seeing things happening that never happened before. We've also put more money in the Council on Aging to undergird our seniors, more funding in our housing, Louisiana Housing Corporation. We are not done yet. I ask for your vote so that we can continue on the work we started. We've seen, and I know you all have seen, if you're on social media, if you get the Department of Education emails, where our schools are finally doing better. One reason is because we put funding in. Another reason is because we're listening more and more to the educators who sit in those classrooms. We have to continue to engage with each other. We have 7 committees in District 34 with citizens that serve on them, that offer insight in their areas of expertise, whether it be education, health care, or just parenting, which is so important. We're bringing home what matters, and together with advocacy, we're filling the halls of the Capitol to create a better Northeast Louisiana. Thank you so much for your advocacy, and I ask for your vote.
Thank you. That is Katrina Jackson. Again, Senate District 34, candidates Reverend James Smith and Katrina Jackson with us tonight. That will conclude tonight's forum. I would like to thank the University of Louisiana Monroe Student Government Association, the Monroe Chamber of Commerce, the West Ouachita Chamber, West Monroe West Ouachita Chamber of Commerce, and want to thank our hosts tonight here at the University of Louisiana Monroe. And before we get out of here tonight, a big thanks to Jenny and Jay and Kenneth and the staff of KEDM for pulling off another great Meet the Candidates forum. We won't do another one of these for a while, but we've got a Monroe mayoral election coming up. We hope to do one of these again when we get into next year. We hope you have a great evening tonight. Don't forget, we'll post this video on our Facebook and also on the KEDM YouTube and at the website, KEDM.org. Have a great night. Enjoy the blues music on the boot all the way till midnight tonight. I'm Cory Crowe. This is KEDM Public Radio.